Well, hello there, and welcome to week 3 of the Sticky Changes Challenge. And today we'll be discussing the third principle of behavior change or law of behavior change, make it easy. So tell me, how has the first 2 weeks gone? Have you enjoyed looking at how you could make the cues for your habit obvious, looking at how you could make the behavior attractive? It's been very interesting. Just certainly had some good experiences and some less than, but all experiences are useful because you can learn from them. Without further ado, let's go into week 3. Make it easy. This is the third principle. We're going to revisit habit loop because we want to remember that when we're talking about the different principles, they all key into one of the points on the habit loop. So the make it easy part is linked to the response. Remember that the habit loop starts with a cue, which triggers a craving and motivates us to respond, and then which then provides a reward. So this week is about how can we be motivated to respond to the cue that we have a craving about, and how can we make it essentially as easy as possible. And the very first point is reduce friction. Reduce friction in any way you can because it increases the likelihood of habits occurring. People often think about habits, and I know we probably touched on this at the launch event. We talked about, how many weeks or how many days do you need to build a habit? And it's really not about weeks or days, it's about frequency. The more you do something, the more likely you are to form a habit of it. It's not about if you do it 12 times in 21 days versus someone who does it 100 times in 14 days. Who's more likely to form a habit of it? The person who's done it for a shorter time. But it has nothing to do with the length of days, but the frequency of repetition of that behavior. So actually, by making it easy and reducing the friction, you're more likely to perform the behavior or the habit more frequently and more likely for it to become something that sticks. So one way to reduce friction is to think about all the behaviors connected to a given process, and then identify parts of it that you can get rid of altogether because they're not necessary. You can automate so you don't have to think about it, and things you can streamline and make not as cumbersome. So if we use the example, let's say I'll use the example today of I want to wake up in the morning and get on the treadmill for 30 minutes. That's an example. So what are all the things I have to do to make that happen? Well, when my alarm goes off, I've got to get out of bed, I've got to turn off my alarm, brush my teeth, get my gym clothes out of the drawer. I've got to get my shoes and my socks. I've got to put them all on. I've got to turn off the alarm of the house alarm, go downstairs. I've got to make sure that the conservatory is right temperature. That's where our treadmill is. I've got to start the treadmill. I've got to get some water because I get thirsty while I'm on the treadmill. I get a bit bored, so maybe I want to turn on the TV. All of these different things that I might, between the thought of I want to get on the treadmill and the action of finally doing it, that you probably don't even think about. But sometimes that's where we get stuck because I can't find the right socks or whatever, or I can't find my sports bra, and then you spend 30 minutes wandering around looking for that, and then get distracted and I don't have enough time to get on the treadmill now. Oops. Think about those things and just say, well, how can I get rid of those? How can I get rid of what's not necessary? Well, do I really need to have the exact socks I always wear for the treadmill? Can I wear any other socks? Can I make some things automatic? So, can I perhaps make sure that my the temperature in my conservatory is just right for me to exercise by the time I get downstairs at 6 in the morning? Well, there are ways to do that now. There are ways to turn on, using smart devices and various things if you can access those. Just different things you have to think and sit and think about your habit and what you want to do to make it as frictionless as possible. So that's an example, okay, how you can and it actually also goes into thinking about priming your environment, creating an environment that favors the habit you want to build. And this will sound a bit like when we talked about designing your environment, we're talking about cues in the first principle. But it is related, but this is more thinking about how to make it not just make the cue obvious, but actually make it easy to follow through after you've got the cue. So for instance, going back to my treadmill example, well, one of the things I could do to prime my environment is every night before I go to sleep, I could get everything out that I know I'm going to need the next day, so that there isn't, that there aren't those steps that get in the way. I've got all my exercise gear out. I've got my shoes, my socks. I fill up my water bottle so it's ready to go. What else could I do? I just get the environment ready. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm still thinking about it. Oh, I really could do an extra 30 minutes of sleep. But I see my gym kit already all laid out, and my shoes, and okay, well, maybe I've turned on the music to come on with my alarm, and it's all like uplifting, energetic music. So it makes me want to get out of bed. Just create the environment that makes you want to do the habit. And that's different for everybody, but you've got to sort of think about that. What makes me more likely to do the thing I want to do? How can I make my environment match that? And then the 2-minute rule is one I really like, because I'm guilty, and I'm sure many of us are, of wanting to get something big done. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, let's go back to the treadmill example. I'm going to get on my treadmill every morning for 30 minutes. And, I'm going to, go, whatever. I'm going to go as fast as I'm going to do 5 kilometers in 30 minutes, and whatever lofty goal and laudable goal that we might have, which is not a bad thing. But the problem is that because those sometimes goals are too big, we might manage the big goal for like a week, 2, 3, or 4, but then we run out of energy or motivation, and then we procrastinate because it's just so big, and then we don't do it. And like I said earlier, it's about repetition. It's about getting things done as many times as possible, so that it really establishes that habit. And if we go back to what we talked about in the first week, that also gives us extra evidence for the identity that we are trying to form. So because we're doing something so frequently, like showing up for ourselves every morning, at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. on that treadmill, we're saying, yeah, this is the kind of person, I'm the type of person who exercises regularly. So the way to work out your 2-minute rule, and you're going to get a template for this one, which will come out with this email, or with this lesson, is just choose the habit and scale it down to steps that take only 2 minutes to do. Get over that first hurdle, so make it as easy as possible for you to start. So back to my treadmill example for this week. What, if I'm like, okay, I'm flagging and I think I can't, oh gosh, this was too big a chunk to bite off, 30 minutes from, doing nothing. What can I do? Well, what's the gateway habit? What's the one thing that you could do first? We've already talked about this. I could put on my gym clothes every night. And if that's all I do for the first week, that's pretty good. I could say, well, okay, I've got that one. Okay, what can I do next? What next 2-minute thing could I do to build on that? Well, I could get my water bottle out every night as well. Or I could say, well, the next step would be to get out of bed every morning when my alarm goes off at 6 o'clock. Or the next step is to get out of bed and put those clothes on. Even if you don't go anywhere near the treadmill for a couple of weeks. But you're just building it in, getting over that hurdle, because those 2-minute things are easy enough to do. So they're not big, they're not taking up like, oh gosh, how hard, I can't do this, I have to get motivation from somewhere. No, just start with your little 2 minutes. Get that one done, do it for a week or 2, and then build on it. And that takes away that sort of big, oh gosh, it's scary, it's hard, I can't do it, overwhelm that sometimes takes over when we're trying to get things done. So we want it to be as easy as possible. So, how will you make your habit easy this week? Really important to think about how you can reduce friction. That's important. Think about how you can prime your environment, and also you can use the 2-minute rule, which you'll get a template. It's not a simple template, but just a reminder of how can I break my habit down to something I can start in 2 minutes. And that will come to you in your email. Tell us how you're getting on, what you've decided to do. Head over to the Facebook group. Let us know what progress you're making and how things are progressing. I use progress twice. Let us know how you're getting on with your making your habit easy to the behavior you've chosen this week. Look forward to hearing all about it. Take care.